busy day here, isn't it?
Well, it's certainly a better day for our most recent client.
Yeah. Tell me about it. The boss of the freight company wanted to know what his sneaky wife was up to.
He was grateful they hired us to snoop on her. What a shocker. Not only was she cheating with another man, but also embezzled $1.5 million from her poor husband.
Yeah. It's definitely a better day for him because not only will he divorce her, he'll get the pleasure of seeing her prosecuted in court.
You remember what he thought of us?
Oh yes, and I quote, "You were the best private eyes I ever had in my employ."
Precisely. Hey, you like grabbing some pizza?
Hey, sounds nice.
Let's go.
Whoa. Whoa! Watch it, buddy!
Oh, sorry. When I jog, I'm like a rocket.
Don't tell me.
Chase after him now!
You! Get back!
Welcome to Happiness in the City. This is Barbara, and today I wanted to focus our attention on questions of authority. Traditionally, authority is associated with a head, right? You put on a head of authority, and it's considered a sign that the person who has that authority is supposed to have a function in social order of things. Now, we have a situation in which today there is a lot of authority that is not strengthening and building up people as the Bible teaches that authority should strengthen us. The people who do it should have the view of how to be creative to make us stronger. Today, there is a situation with people who have authority that is very divided. Some try to uphold strength of their communities, others are destroying them. Sometimes the destruction is very subtle, like a very difficult situation I'm dealing with a building that I've been residing for the last 16 years. People who are managing it, they don't destroy, kill people right away. They just target some and they stress them out to death. The person dies from natural causes. There's a police report that nothing unnatural happened, and then they go and target somebody else to do that. It is not authority that is strengthening. This is authority that is destroying. And I've noticed with the situation I've been dealing with, there is a vacuum in getting help in such situations. In other words, there's authority that is very good, that helps us, like people who are running many government offices and are helping us just to live in safe and peaceful environments, and those are good people who help us out. The authority I'm dealing with is not government. I'm dealing with private authority, private management company that has been committing those murders quietly. They don't call it murders, but they are, because people are dying before their time, not because of any natural situation, but because they were stressed to death. You take a dog, and you take a dog on a leash, and you tell the dog all day long the dog is bad, and you don't feed the dog, and then you always punish the dog, and the dog eventually is going to die from a broken heart. So I'm dealing with this situation of private authority that is using government money and government subsidies to benefit from governmental money, but then creates the situation that is very threatening. And my life has been threatening at that place many times, and it is threatened right now. And I don't know how to get out, because when I'm calling for help, there is a vacuum. People are much more empathetic to help in other situations than this. And I've been thinking about the cause and the root of it. And I think it is because there is a vacuum in our understanding of how to deal with private authority. There is clarity with public authority. We know how to keep policemen accountable, how to keep government officials accountable, how to deal with financial aspects of public money. We understand that. But we don't know how to deal with killing private, with killing in the hands of private management, private authority. And I've been praying to God a lot about it, because I know that the problem is much bigger than just in the house where I reside. The problem of people who take authority of government money and house people in their buildings, that they think they own people who are residing in those buildings, and they own them like property that can be destroyed. Even they call themselves property management, but they don't really manage property, they manage people. And they consider people as property that can be disposed of heartlessly, like you disposed of a TV set that is no longer working. So, as I understand now that there is a vacuum in people having an empathy in such circumstances, I ask you to help me, to pray with me, and to help me deal with that situation, because many people have perished before their time. My mother died very tragically from stress just about knowledge that I was in such circumstances. Many people are being threatened, many people are being intimidated not to say anything. At the same time, other people who are encouraged by those private managers cover up for them. So it's a situation that is very, very difficult. So let's talk about private management in the context of managing government money and government subsidies, and also in the context of being accountable for creating situation of such extreme stress that people die. And then also that extreme stress is induced in order to destroy that person or that group of people. We have to talk about it, because there is blood guilt. Like, I know after this last friend of mine who perished from being literally hounded to death by the property manager, that she's praying in heaven for this situation too, because there is a blood guilt always that happens when people who are supposed to strengthen a particular situation create such extreme stress that the person dies. There's a blood guilt that is, in God's eyes, as serious as if somebody takes a knife and kills somebody. So this is a serious situation. And since I've been asking for help and no one is helping me, no one helped those who died either, then I realized that I'm dealing with something that is beyond one person's control. I'm dealing with numbness of private management property companies that have been getting away with those murders for a long time. And I know that this is happening in my building, but they are not doing it because they just invented it yesterday. Someone taught them to do it. They've been doing it in many other buildings. I know I have the evidence and proof that this is happening in other buildings as well. So what I ask you is to help me online with your advice, with your prayers, with your messages, with talking to other people, how to create accountability with those private management property companies. And first of all, to also learn, to get numbers, how many people died. I want to know. I'm a reporter by profession, and I would encourage some of you who are in mass media to start looking at this, because you've been so focused on government accountability and on what is happening in relationships in the workplace. There's a lot of focus on that, but there's total vacuum on what is happening with people who take money from the government or from vulnerable people for rent, and then they stress them out to death. Why is this happening? I would like to have the numbers. I'd like to know in which cities this is happening. What is moving them to do, to commit such atrocities? They are quiet atrocities, and that's why it's so difficult for me to get credibility in this. But I don't want to live in fear for my life when I pay rent and the government creates subsidies, and the people who commit those atrocities are private management people who have no heart and feel total impunity that they can do that. One of them actually boasted that she can get away with anything as property management a person because she has authority to evict. And I was shaking when I heard that. In other words, authority had in this situation was associated not with building a person up, with providing customer service, with creation of a good environment, with heart-to-heart connection. This was pure statement that she had authority to kill, because to evict without cause, without court, on the spot, and the person goes out to wander the streets and dies there. About those people that they've evicted in this way, I don't even know the numbers. But I know about one friend, and I won't tell you her name, but she was a totally non-violent person, very focused on system of justice, actually, in law books. And one day the property management came to her and told her that she had to be evicted. And the woman fell in such horrible rage, and this is a non-violent person, but the fight or flight response was triggered in her, and she went outside on the street, took a brick from the sidewalk and just crushed it into a car. It didn't do much damage, but I'm just telling you that rage that the private property management can create in a person by totally ignoring everything about what we are used to get from our governments as accountability, or even in workplace. Because if someone were to do something today in the workplace, there is accountability. There are lawyers who understand that something can be done. But in terms of private property management, people, there's nothing at this point that can be done because there's this vacuum of knowledge and response. So I'm asking you to help me with ideas to how to understand this situation, that we can stop further deaths in that building. And right now in this building at least 20 women are in danger of excessive stress that may cause their death. Now I know that a lot of you are interested in matters of justice. Ask yourself, what can you do to look at the hands of those private property real estate management people, and how to create accountability in that realm of economic activity. We have a situation in LA with excessive homelessness. I have this theory that a lot of those homeless people were destroyed because of that attitude of lack of accountability from private property people that they resided in. And then that spiraled into all kinds of other things. And now we have a situation that one of those homeless people tried to warm himself up and started a fire that almost destroyed LA. There's a lot more real estate management going to hands of people from other countries that they have no connection to American people, and they have no connection at all to any feeling and any responsibility for us here in the United States of America. If we don't stop this situation of killing fields in real estate management context, we will lose America. We'll lose America not because of invasion, but because people just die from fear of being totally disregarded in the housing situation, or purposefully destroyed because some property management company is careless or just wants to take over buildings. Usually they run them down anyway. So today, as I'm talking about authority, I want you to have deep understanding of multidimensionality of authority. Authority of the government, authority of workplace, but also of real estate and situations within the context of housing. The difference between government authority and workplace authority and housing authority is that without house you lose health. When you lose health, you lose your life. So a lot of government authority is subject to democratic negotiations. Workplace situations sometimes easy to solve by changing your job, but in a context of housing, your very heart, your very life, the very center of your being is affected. So for people who are in different real estate situations as tenants, are very vulnerable to what the landlords are doing. Now, when those landlords become corporations, management corporations, the heartlessness becomes unbearable, and then one after another, the most vulnerable people die. If we want God's grace on the United States of America and the world, we have to look at the blood guilt in those houses where many innocent people perished because of that excessive stress. We have to look at the reasoning behind creation of that lethal excessive stress. Is it purposeful to take over buildings? Then of course it's a crime. Is it a form of extortion of money from the government? Then it's a crime too. Is it simply thoughtlessness and callousness and numbness to the suffering and life of other people? Then people who have that callousness and that numbness should never be allowed to have any authority. And this is what I'd like to focus in closing. I understand that most of you focus on government authority and on workplace authority, but pay attention to what is happening with those who are managing real estate property, because this is where most of the danger today to American security is. Because American security makes no sense if there is no life. So if people live in fear of their lives and then they lose lives because of the way authority is created and done in buildings, then there will be no country. So I'd like you to focus on ways to keep those property managers of buildings accountable. I know that this is a new territory, but we have to have it, because if we do not have that accountability, they will destroy millions of people. So today my purpose before Christmas is to draw your attention to this fact, and I would like to ask you to create vision of life around real estate, that you will join with me on this, that we will recover House of America in ways that create security and safety of all of us here. That we will not have a situation that once a person or group of people become private property managers, they think that they have right to do anything, that they can just dispose of somebody else's life like that and get away with this. This is the root problem of homelessness, because when you look at history of America, there haven't been homelessness until recently, because somehow all the people in authority, whether first British authority or then independent American authority, knew that every living person needs to have living situation. That was the focus. That was the focus from the beginning. The focus was to create living context, to build homesteads, to create a safe place for family members, for neighbors, for cities. When you study history, you learn that. And suddenly we have a situation last few decades in which there is massive homelessness in America, and people are dying within the context of those buildings managed by the private property managers, and outside being homeless after they are, quote, authority evicted. So in order for us to regain good relationship with God on the land and on the country, we have to seriously look at that situation. And when we look at this situation, we have to have clarity of vision about names. What are the names of those property management companies? What are the people they employ? Whom they employ? Do they employ some murderers? Do they have any background checks on the people that come to manage sometimes very vulnerable populations like disabled people, older people? And when we have clarity on not only on how the population receives money to pay for real estate, but then what happens with those who start to interfere with the very life of a person and under circumstances and authority of running a place cause so many people to die. We have to look at it, and not only in the building I'm in, that is a place where every day I pray to God for a miracle that I live. Okay, I just don't enjoy being there. I pray for God for divine security that I survive. And then we have to look at what is happening in other states and in the country, and we have to deal with this situation. We have to shield life of Americans and all residents of America from those evil murderers from, quote, property management. Thank you so much for listening to my remarks, and see you here next week.